Good evening and welcome back to Spooky Town Tales, episode 16. Tonight we are talking coincidences and just all-round creepy things. Welcome to the show. It's me, Morgana, and joining me, as per usual, Jimbo Deany.
Good evening, all.
So we are back, we are shattered, we are currently scoffing down the coffee, recording on a Friday morning, which we never do.
Not even once.
Never ever, and we have the added challenge of noisy tradesmen next door. So if you hear strange noises in the background, it's not paranormal, it's not
spooks.
Ghosts, it's just noisy tradesmen with their top 40 pounding music on. It's making me want to stab myself in the ear with a knitting needle. But I won't, because I've got to bring you a show. Okay? And the bills have got to get paid, and life's got to carry on. So
Just gotta keep going.
just got to push through. So all that aside, welcome to the show. Are you comfortable? Are you relaxed? Are you eating something delicious? Because you should be. It's Friday night and all bets are off. Relax, kick back, and prepare to be spooked. The first story I'm going to tell you this evening is a crazy story about a young woman who self-diagnosed herself with a brain tumour.
Whoa. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to read you the story. I'm not going to give it away because it's pretty cool. So she was an otherwise healthy woman living in Britain in the 1960s. She'd been living there happily, perfectly fine. She was a full-time homemaker.
Mm-hmm.
She was sitting at home one day when she heard a very polite voice say, "Please don't be afraid. I know it must be shocking for you to hear me speaking to you like this, but this is the easiest way I could think of. My friend and I used to work at the Children's Hospital in Great Ormond Street, and we would like to help you."
What?
Word for word, she hears this clear as crystal.
No.
Otherwise healthy, no mental health problems. What the heck? Okay? She was so frightened, she tried to ignore it, thinking, I've just had a little minor bout of something. Something's happened.
An episode.
An episode. It'll be okay. The voice then calmly reassured her, giving more details of the specific hospital in which this voice had apparently worked at, and the friend. It was a children's hospital. She was so scared she was going crazy. She went straight to the doctor, who then referred her to a psychiatrist.
Whoa.
The psychiatrist then diagnosed her as having had a psychosis-related hallucination, like an audible hallucination.
Yep.
Treated her with anti-psychosis medication, and the voices disappeared for about a week. But a week later, the voices returned, even more specific instructions this time, to the specific diagnostic wing of the said hospital, the imaging wing, in the nearby hospital this time, so a closer hospital to her that had a diagnosis section.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The voice informed her that she'd had a tumour in her brain stem, and she hadn't received proper diagnosis from her initial visit to the doctors. So I know you've been to the doctors, but they've got it wrong. You've got a brain tumour. You need to go into this imaging place, get a proper test done.
Whoa.
There is a tumour on your brain stem. If you don't deal with it soon, it could be life-threatening. So so specific, described even the name of the tumour, like the medical name for it,
Whoa.
where it was on her brainstem, what side it was on. So she went back to the doctors, but with no evidence like that he could see that she
Yeah.
had a brain tumour. She literally had to like beg the doctor to allow the
have a go.
referral
Yeah.
to get her into this wing to get the this scan done. Now this is not a cheap scan.
Yeah.
It's a very expensive scan. So the doctor was sort of just urging her, why are you wanting this test done? It's going to cost you all this money.
Yeah.
And I see no reason why you need this test done.
Yeah.
So she did. She insisted and forcibly said, I need to get this done. This is what they're saying. I need to get it done. So she went and got the scan done. And wouldn't you know it,
That is crazy.
brain tumour. Exactly the exact tumour, the
As
exact
she said.
spot as the voice in her head had told her.
What?
Yep. So she required immediate surgery. The voice was in agreement and said, yes, you need to have immediate surgery right now. This is where it gets wild. So after the surgery, which was a success,
Yeah.
she needed no ongoing treatment afterwards. It was because she'd done
What?
exactly what the
When?
voices had told her to do, when the voices had told her to do it.
Yeah.
She said when she regained consciousness, this is the last time she heard the voice said, we are pleased to have helped you. Goodbye.
What?
And she never heard the voices again. No post-surgical problems arose, and she made a full recovery.
Talking too
A
much.
talking tumour. Have you ever heard of a talking
Whoa.
brain tumour? The tumour told her where it was. So this could be so many things. Like, all of you listening have probably all got different theories as to what this was. Was it a subconscious thing that she was telling herself, I feel uncomfortable, there's pressure there, and it manifested because of, brain tumours, if there's pressure on the brain stem or parts of your brain, you will have hallucinations, various brain problems.
Yeah, yep.
Was it just medical? But the fact that it was so clear, and she said, like, the doctors were bemused that she'd had no other health issues or indications that there was any issues with her brain.
That's crazy. How do you even start to fathom the fact that it got put into a voice, though? That's
A very calm, very reassuring, clear
knowledgeable voice.
Very clear voice. Not like a thought in her head.
No.
She said it was like someone talking in her ear, clear as crystal.
It couldn't have been her or her subconscious, because she wouldn't have known what.
All those details about the children's hospital.
None.
Or the specific wing. She wasn't a doctor. She had no medical training. How would she know the name of the tumour or the name of the...
Scientific tumour.
A
It's
scientific...
one of those ones that... Holy smokes, man.
But this opens the can of worms of, like, people saying you have spirits with you that are like guardians.
Yeah.
Or or angels, whatever you want to call it, that perhaps there is a way for energies, once they've left the body, to return back to you in times of
Inform.
trauma, or when you need them.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're a good person, maybe. I don't know. But then again, that opens the whole ethical... Let's just...
Yeah.
I sound like Chidi Anagonia. Ethical can of worms of, does this happen to anyone, regardless of whether you're a shit person or not?
It just opens up the Jeremy Baramy.
The Jeremy Baramy. Let's not talk about Jeremy Baramy. But along the lines of guardian angels, you have a story that we haven't shared. We teased on it in the past.
I have, but...
So we're going to just share it tonight.
Yeah, I haven't got the details completely because the guy's so hard to get.
He's elusive.
He's on night shift, so I very rarely catch him. What had happened, as far as I had been informed, was this was back in the... I think he said it was the mid to late 80s. He was driving around with his mum in their Holden station wagon, and it was basically on a Sunday afternoon. They would go to I can't remember if it's his parents, his mum's parents or her dad's parents, but
Standard Sunday practice.
Yeah,
go to one of the in-laws
for Sunday dinner,
for dinner
or lunch, and then he rocked up. On the way there, he got sat in the back of the station wagon, which is quite common practice.
That was my spot.
And he on route, they were driving through town about 60 odd k's an hour, as you'd expect, and the back doors flung open, and he tumbled out along with his teddy bear and all his other stuff that he had, because he was a young fella then. And the weird thing that they couldn't explain was, once the mum had realised what was happening, slam the brakes on, go back and get him, and there was not a scratch on him, and there was no torn clothing, no scrap, not literally, not even a graze. And
if you'd fallen out the back of a car going 60 k's an hour, you're going to have a rip or a graze or a cut. You're going to have a bump somewhere.
Good couple of grazes
you're
on
gonna
you.
have to.
We've all stacked it as kids doing 5 k's an hour on a
that's top speed.
Exactly. And if you scrape down the road, you generally get top to toe.
Yeah.
That was the way it was. And he had nothing, not a cut. He was not even a bump or a graze. So the weird thing was, though, that he brought this up in his later years, this incident.
This memory that
of what had happened. And he'd explained to his mum that he wanted to know who the 3 men were. And his mum was like, no, it was literally, we were just driving around the corner. There was no 3 men. And he goes, but no, there was 3 men. I just, he remembered after all these years, these 3 men. They were all wearing white robes, they all had grey beards, they all had dark coloured eyes. He remembers to that detail.
That's so weird.
He said that all 3 of them, they looked very similar, but they all were slightly different.
Did they give a feeling of ease or a feeling of dread?
He said it was such a comforting feeling, to the point where he remembers in his mind clear as day. And this is someone who he's not a stupid person. He's the kind of guy who
is irrational.
A very rational person.
Is he a religious man?
Not at all.
No.
And he works in a control panel on one of the sites. He's one of the control stations guys. So he's got to be a reasonably switched on person to have knowledge of where his position is.
Yeah.
And he said that, it was the 3 guys that they carried me. The first one carried me and the other 2 followed along, and they handed me to you. Don't you remember that, Mum? And that was his...
That's how he remembered it.
That's exactly how he remembered it.
Wow.
And to this day, his mum could not explain why he didn't have a scratch.
And didn't his teddy that he was holding get completely decimated?
Yeah, sorry, I did forget to mention that. His teddy was, torn in half, pretty much. And there was, no explanation as to why.
He was fine.
He was fine.
That's very strange.
Quite odd.
Again,
quite odd. I wanted to get more details on it.
But we'll follow that story up when Jimmy gets to speak to this man. This is a second-hand. Did he tell you himself, or did you hear it from some?
No, actually, got it second-hand because I have another guy out there who's always into this now.
We've got some. If you're listening, thank you so much. High five. Is it the D-Sal crew?
It was.
High five, D-Sal crew. I'll send you some brownies for Jimmy. Some spooky brownies for Halloween. But back to, I've got off track here. Along the lines of guardian angels and protectors and things. What's your stance on that? Do you feel...
There's weird unexplainables out there, and there's enough of them that it warrants some form of acknowledgement, but I can't... it's the same as everything we discuss. You can't completely rule it in or rule it out.
Yeah, well, I personally feel that we do have something or someone, whether it be we manifested ourselves, or whether it be that it's we do have something keeping watch over you. Because I've had too many weird things where I've sort of gone, why would I have known that, or how did I know to go that way instead of that way? And, I mean, sometimes you get little voices, or sometimes I think maybe it is just an inbuilt natural instinct that we have. But in this sort of instance where he's a young boy and he has a memory of 3
distinctive.
Men, very distinctive.
Even to their features. From the story I got, he
described them
completely. He was 100% aware of who they were and...
Did he get taken? This is my question. Again, I'm just ruling out all possibilities. Did they take him for any medical checkups afterwards?
As far as I know, no, they didn't.
Okay, so he could have hit his head.
Absolutely.
And had he hit his head, he could have had a form of
Totally.
brain trauma where
Absolutely,
he's
yeah.
maybe been,
Jolted.
or he's been knocked out for a few seconds.
And that would explain why there'd be a wild overlap in it.
Yeah, like not remembering being handed to his mum. Maybe he regained consciousness once his
Between-
mum picked him up, or
Yeah, exactly.
so that's a possible
But
explanation.
the no scratches thing's quite hard to cross out because
He would have had, if he'd have whacked his head hard enough to cause
yeah,
that, you'd imagine he'd at least have a cut or a lump or a bump on his head.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's sort of strange. But then again, I've also been told that there's certain parts of your head, if you hit, like your temple,
yeah.
it doesn't require a lot of impact for it to cause
But it's
quite a
enough.
lot of damage.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that because speaking from experience, I have been knocked out in my time a few times. Je regrette to say. I got knocked out with a baseball bat in the head. Like, I don't know how many people can live to tell the tale of being...
It's pretty impressive.
I got hit in the head with a baseball bat accidentally. It wasn't on purpose.
Wasn't a bar fight.
But that day from, I can remember just before it, and then there's so many details that I can't figure out what was dream and what was real because I was out cold and I was coming in and out.
Yeah.
And it's really, when you have a head injury, it's hard to tell, looking back, what's real and what's not. And you get, like, I can remember being asked sort of lights in the eyes, being asked questions and things, and I've got no idea what version of it because I dreamt of weird things and I'm like, did that happen?
And that's the way I see this sort of thing happening. I find it to be along those lines.
Yeah.
The only thing that doesn't compute with me is the scratches. I've never been knocked out, admittedly, not intentionally in any form.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things.
It's a horrible feeling.
It's just one of those things, though. You can imagine that if you shake your brain up, it's got to have some effect.
That's
to
it.
What your trail of thought is.
And again, I think this goes back to the first story we mentioned. If there was pressure on her brain,
Yeah.
I mean, I do believe we are exposed to an overload of information. And I think we do retain more than we realise that we do. I'm a person who can spurt off general knowledge like a mother lecker. And I kind of go, oh, where does that come from again? I think the human brain's capable of a lot more than we realise. So this, even though, I mean, she's very delightfully been dubbed a homemaker's a fucking hard job.
Oh, yeah.
You need to be a certain type of person to be able to do it and do it well.
Yeah.
And I think, like, some of the smartest women I've ever met, including my mum, she's not university educated, but she's so well read.
Yeah, and
knowledgeable, and so she's such an in-depth thinker.
Yeah.
I sometimes just think, a lot of the time she was probably well and truly overlooked. She probably had the capability of being a medical doctor or a surgeon.
Yeah.
And maybe she'd read articles about something and retained knowledge of the brain, and then that's where the facts might have come from.
Who knows?
Who knows? But so I do believe there could be a scientific explanation, but you have to admit, listeners, it's very odd that it was so specific that she could relay these facts so accurately, have a medical doctor tell her it was all bullshit, only to discover she was spot on.
Yeah.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah.
And the whole falling out the car with no scratches and then having had this experience of being held or protected.
Yeah.
And, then there's that thought of, well, there you go. Someone's looked after him. Someone's made sure he didn't get hurt. Like, those of you who are religious out there would absolutely go, well, why are they even questioning this? I mean, clearly he's been looked after. But then the scientific people will be going, what the hell? How do you explain why wasn't he injured?
Exactly.
So there you go. There's a can of worms for you to discuss this Friday night. On to the next. Now, we're just going to keep going with coincidences, and then I'll finish off with a couple of spooky ghost stories, because, I don't like not having ghost stories in the episodes. It doesn't feel right. I love ghost stories.
They are good.
So I'm going to read out a couple of coincidences that I've read about and found quite strange and intriguing, but also personally as a couple tonight that relate to me because I'm a twin.
Yeah.
And we've had weird stuff And even though we're not identical twins,
There's still a
my brother
connection.
and I have had, we've still even now got a connection. And I think we always will. It's something that nothing can break apart.
Yep.
If you're a twin, you get it. Any twins out there listening, you'll understand. Even down to, I mean, my brother lives in Thailand.
Yeah.
He did live in the Philippines for a few years. But even though he's miles apart, miss him terribly.
Yeah.
Every single day. We have very similar taste in things. And it's quite funny when I hear, when Mum's had, chats with him, when we start talking and she'll be telling me what he's been doing and things that he's, like, for example, Bed Bath & Beyond, which, if you're listening, Callum, I love bath, towels, haberdashery. So does Callum.
Bit of an understatement.
And even though, like, we don't get to talk anywhere near as much as I wish we could, it's just funny to hear, like, his still so into homewares, but, but when if you were to meet Callum, it would be the last thing you'd think.
Yeah.
And just little things like that. There's and music, like 100% we are very linked regarding our taste in music. Always have been. And music's very important to both of us. And just down to weird things like when you have a panicky dream and then when you get in touch with them, quite often you'll find something had happened or there'd been something scary had happened or Callum got nervous and rang me once when I was in hospital. Wasn't in hospital.
Yeah.
But I'd had a random allergic reaction to red cabbage at work.
You gotta watch that stuff.
What the hell?
Savage.
But there was an instant... It sneaks up on you. But, like, completely random. What the hell? And went to the hospital only to wait in the thing and I sorted it out myself. But he called... Thank you, doctors.
See you later. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
I got it.
I've done 46 sprays of Ventolin and I've iced my throat with freezing water and I can breathe again. Thanks for nothing.
Don't worry about it.
See you later. So he called this day and he's, are you all right? In a panic. And I just had a feeling you're at the hospital or something. I'm like, I am at the hospital. He's like, what's happening? And I was like, yeah, well, I've had a weird reaction to red cabbage.
Sounds so much better when you tell it back.
It's so weird. And I've been at work and it was so embarrassing. So I'm like, we're all sitting around the lunch table and I'm like, holy shit, I can't breathe. What's going on? Anyway, enough about me and red cabbage. So needless to say, I don't eat this stuff anymore. But back to twins. Twins have a weird link.
Yeah.
And science has been researching it forever.
Yeah.
Callum and I were researched. Mum put us in a thing called twin study.
Yeah.
And it meant my poor sisters as well had to go and get prodded and pricked and tested for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is trying to find the link between asthma and allergies and is it more eczema, is it more common? I don't think any of us had eczema or anything like that. But it was just to see I think they were trying to find out whether twins are genetically prone to various medical things. But along the lines of this testing, I remember distinctly being psychic evaluated.
Yeah.
And there were other twins at our school. So this one was actually, I don't know why it was happening at the school, whether their parents had put them in the study as well.
Yeah.
But we all got tested and evaluated. And what they do is put one twin in one room, one twin in the other room.
Yeah.
And then you'd hold up pictures.
Yeah.
And you had to say what the other twin was looking at. And we beat all the identical twins. So Callum and I think got 8 out of 10 or something.
Yeah.
Whereas all the sets of identical twins, it was sort of your standard ratio of what you'd imagine, even with two separate strangers.
Yeah,
It was like you got a 50-50, well, not 50-50, but you got a good chance of getting a couple right.
Yeah. Yep.
Callum and I did, like, off the charts well.
Yep.
And so that throws the whole theory of identical twins just them having a link or what would you call it?
Yeah, a link is the best.
A link. And, you even have it with your siblings and with your mum and dad. There is, I don't know how to explain it, but you get a feeling in your gut without knowing anything. You know if something's up with one of your family members. Yeah. It happens all the time. My sisters, my mum.
Well, being in close quarters with each other for so long too, it is something that would be explained by you literally just syncing with each other. That's that's something that you can't be ruled out. It's got to be part of it
But you have it with Casey.
to a degree.
So
yeah.
Jimmy's one of his sisters is very similar to him,
Yeah.
and quite often he'll get little feelings and.
Just every now and again.
yeah.
You do notice when there's things going on.
Yeah, you kind of go, I should check in on them, and then sure enough, quite often he'll find that maybe there was something, she did need help with something, or
Yeah.
vice versa. Casey's done it with you before.
Yep.
There's something that exists in a family unit, but with twins in particular. So now that we've gas bagged, I'll read you a few strange twin coincidences. So there was 2 Finnish brothers who were both killed on the exact same day, on the exact same road, in the exact same way, within an hour or two of each other's deaths, within 1.5 kilometres of each other.
Whoa.
So the first brother was killed. He was on his bike. He got hit by a truck and killed. And about an hour or two later, on the same stretch of road, 1.5 k's away, the twin brother was killed by a truck on his bike, the exact same way.
Whoa.
Identical twins.
That's crazy.
So that actually happened. What are the chances?
Yeah.
Unless he was riding to see the brother, where the brother had died.
Well,
See,
that's
this
true.
is my thoughts. But even then, I mean, he would have been in an emotional state,
Yeah. Yeah.
thus putting him at higher risk of riding in front of a truck. But at the same time, to be killed the exact same way, that close.
Yeah.
Generally, if there's an accident on a road, especially a fatality, people are being a bit more careful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But I don't
yes and
know.
no. Rubberneckers.
Rubberneckers, that's true.
Pretty serious thing.
Now, this next set of twins, this I totally can see happening. There are twins in my family. There's twins in Jimmy's family. My grandmother has a twin. They're identical twins, to the point they tricked me when I was little.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell them apart. Now, whenever they catch up, no shit, they get off the plane in almost the identical outfit. Now, one lives in the UK, one lives in Australia, yet somehow or another, without preempting or planning, they will always, pretty much every time that they've caught up, they've been in almost identical outfits. They live on the opposite side. Now, you've got to bear in mind different seasons, different fashions. The UK is usually 2 years ahead of Australia, and somehow or another, they just seem to know and seem to wear either the exact outfit but in different colours, or the exact colours, like head to toe. It's really spooky.
Yeah.
So I believe this 100%. This is just a thing that twins do.
Yeah.
So there's 2 brothers, twin brothers, whose parents were killed, separated at birth. One went to live with the Springer family, and I believe the other family were the Lewis family. Now, both families had no knowledge of the others. It was usually they don't separate twins, but in this instance, one went with one family, one went with another. No contact, that was the agreement, because it was too upsetting. Just they were to live as individuals.
Okay, so it must have been when they were pretty young.
They were babies.
Yeah.
So the Springer family named their boy James.
Okay.
The Lewis family named their boy James.
Okay.
So both boys were named James. They both, even though in completely separate cities, towns, families, both met women called Linda and married them.
Yeah.
They both had a boy and called them James Allen.
Whoa.
The only difference was an extra L. One of them named it with 2 L's, one with one. They both went into law.
Really?
Yep, and security. They both divorced their Lindas,
Yeah.
then met Bettys and married Bettys.
Whoa.
Both of them.
What?
Yep. They both owned dogs and called the dog Toy.
That's not even a common name.
No. Why would you call your dog Toy? They both drank the exact beer. They were chain smokers who smoked the exact cigarettes.
Yeah.
And they both drove pale blue Chevrolets.
Wow.
So when they eventually did meet up,
Yeah.
which somehow, there was a man who figured it all out and got them to meet.
That's ridiculous.
It's having grown up with identical twin grandmothers, grandmother and great aunt, seeing how it works, it's just what it is.
Yeah, you don't get a choice.
It's
in it
very
sometimes.
strange. Yes, medically, they are genetically the same.
Yeah, but they're not.
but they're not. But somehow, like that doesn't explain the. How
Life
do they know?
circumstances, everything.
Psychically, how do they know what
Yeah.
is happening with the other one? That it's anyone out there that can offer me a rational explanation. It's magic, in my opinion.
No,
It's twin magic,
It
and
is.
I grew up with it with a twin brother of my own. There were things he knew and I knew that there is no way we should have known
Yeah.
that were going to happen or that were happening, that we just instinctively we knew.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Very strange.
Very, very strange. So any twins out there, get in touch with me. Send me your spooky twin stories. Have you ever known something was wrong with your twin ahead of them knowing it? Or have you called them and found out that what you were feeling was right?
Yeah.
I know I have. Let me know. I'd love to hear more twin stories. Now, another coincidence, the 27 Club. Jimmy, have you heard of the 27 Club or the Forever 27 Club?
No, I have not.
There is a strange coincidence in Hollywood or in just the popular music and film industry
Yeah.
that exceptional young musicians seem to die at 27. There is a massive list
Oh.
of influential musicians. You've got Brian Jones of Rolling Stones, died at 27.
Yeah.
Jim Morrison of The Doors, he died at 27.
Yeah.
Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Robert Johnson, Amy Winehouse. You've got Pigpen McKernan of Grateful Dead, he died at 27. Chris Bell from Big Star, he died at 27. And there is lots of them.
Yeah.
All died at 27. All of them were unique, exceptionally
Yeah.
gifted. Something strange about them
Yeah.
in their ability to know and write music that seemed to just
In their
touch
own way.
people.
Yeah.
Like if you think of every single one of them, they just were one of a kind.
Yeah. Yep.
Like they're not just
Definitely.
your standard manufactured pop musician.
Yeah, yeah.
They were all exceptionally talented. But let's just be realistic here. They're all drug addicts. Every single one of them were drug addicts.
It is the problem.
And I think it comes with this,
You get an expiry date when that's the way you live.
if that's the way you live, and when you're tremendously gifted and you obviously have a lot going on upstairs,
Yeah.
you have demons, and if you have the addition of a substance
Yeah.
problem,
You're higher risk.
you're at higher risk of dying. And it is such an age. I remember when I turned 27, you have a whole shift of perspective.
It's true.
Because you're
Yeah, I
not,
recall.
you have to be, you're officially, okay, I'm a grown up now.
Yeah.
The stuff that gets excused when you're young, in your 20s something, I mean, we're the exception because we started a family young. So we didn't get to indulge ourselves like other 20-year-olds do.
Yeah.
We were in the trenches from 23
Yeah.
in marriage, mortgage, children. So we were proper, we didn't even get to. But even in that zone,
Yeah.
when we hit 27, you have this big wake-up call of,
The whole,
it's grown-up time. I can't get away with the shit that I could have before and excuse,
This is
I'm
true.
only in my early 20s, I've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
I think it's your mortality comes to the forefront.
I think so too. I think that's a big part of it. You
Yeah.
kind of do like exactly like you said. This isn't excusable anymore.
Yeah.
You can't.
I'm approaching 30 now.
Yeah. This is time to get serious.
Time to get serious. And I know a lot of people who have the panic of, I need to find someone and be married before I'm 30. I'm like, why? You don't need to be married. But it's a weird thing that humans do.
It is.
Yeah. So when you look at the cause of death of most of them, it's either suicide or drug overdose, the exception of Robert Johnson, who was poisoned.
Yeah.
Such a shame. But, I mean, he
Yeah.
was a bit of a cad. Either way,
Yeah.
though, no one deserves to be poisoned. And I think it took him 2 days to die.
Yeah. Yep.
That's pretty sad.
That's a long drawn out.
That's a long drawn out process. So, anyone else can think of any other 27 Club members, write in,
Yeah.
add them onto the list. But they're the ones that I've found,
a
I've
big
looked
long
into.
list.
Yeah, but all of them are like just so good
Yeah.
at what they did
Absolutely.
and left such a legacy behind. Okay, we're going to have a change of mood. We're going to keep on the coincidences and then we're going to slowly ease into the ghost stories. So, creepy coincidence. This one I absolutely love. Now, if you're a believer in karma and if you do shitty things to people, it'll come back to you. Not that I'm saying, I mean, I don't know the full circumstances of how this went down, but, I mean, in order for this...
It's got essences of karma, does it?
It's got a bitch slap of karma. So in the late 19th century, a man called Henry Zealand broke up with his girlfriend who sadly killed herself. She was so devastated.
Oh.
As a result, her brother hunted him down and shot him. So shot the man that had dumped the sister and then turned the gun on himself and killed himself.
Whoa.
Problem was, the bullet just missed Zealand, and went into a nearby tree. So the bullet went into the tree, didn't kill Zealand, but the brother had already killed himself. So he killed himself thinking he'd killed Zealand,
sorry. Yep.
not realising the bullet had just skimmed him
Wow.
and gone into a tree.
Yeah.
Years later, Zealand tried to blow up that tree, obviously clearing it to build something or whatever.
Yeah.
The moment the tree blew up, the bullet was repelled out,
No.
hit him in the head, killing him instantly.
What?
So that bullet was meant for it. Is that not the most... What?
That's ridiculous.
Yep.
Getting shot many years later
By
after
the bullet.
had
The
been
bullet
fired.
that you dodged because you decided, why the hell you decided to blow up the tree where the bullet was.
That's
It had his name.
crazy.
What the old saying, this bullet's got your name on it? It literally did. Karma is a scary thing.
Wow.
Right, I'm going to slip into some ghost stories to wind up the show this evening,
Nice.
folks. So, this one's really creepy. So, I was hiking through my handwriting is the worst handwriting in the world. Basically, he's hiking through the remnants of an old town. Mm-hmm. There's an old abandoned town, and there's a lot of surrounding bush and woodland.
Yep.
To get to this town, he had to cross a whole bunch of fallen logs, and there was a creek he'd have to cross 3 times, so it would wind round and round and round.
Yep.
He'd have to make this creek cross. It's a very arduous, it's a very difficult journey to get to this abandoned town. It was long
Yeah.
abandoned. There was fallen shit everywhere.
Yeah.
It was a hard journey.
Yeah.
So he's like an avid hiker and he's off on his walk. So he's crossed the creek multiple times. It was about 5 miles in to the walk. He started to notice something blue had caught his eye up ahead. He's like, what's that? As he got closer, he noticed there was a man in his 60s wearing blue satin pajamas sitting in a tree.
Oh?
The closer I got to the man, the louder he laughed. It wasn't maniacal or scary,
Yeah.
but it set alarms off in his head.
Wow.
So he's like,
Well, that would, admittedly.
I mean, he's just been trekking through creek beds and over logs, and
Unsettling.
there's a man in satin pajamas laughing in a tree.
Yeah.
He wasn't wearing any shoes and looked very well groomed. I gave him a nod and he just kept laughing. As I walked past him, it stopped. He turned to see whether, obviously, I mean, you're going to want to keep your eye on a crazy man laughing in a tree.
You would.
He turned to see where he was and he was gone. There was nothing in this tree.
What?
There was no branch crack, no plants rustling, there was no noise. He just vanished.
Weird.
Really weird.
Totally weird.
And I mean, you could say maybe somehow it's just a madman living out there, but satin pajamas? Well groomed? Up
Nah.
a tree?
Not a thing.
Now, we had a ghost in the tree.
Which one was it?
Not you, me growing up.
I was going to say.
in the
I don't
school.
recall this.
I saw, this is when my parents were like, are you insane? I was a weird kid. I was ghost girl because I did see weird things, and quite often, now I look back
Hence
and
your interest. some might
this
say.
is what spurned my interest. And realizing not everyone saw the things I saw, and quite often it could have been an overactive imagination. I can take that one on the chin.
Yeah.
But I did see, without a doubt, a man sitting in the tree out the front of the school.
Okay.
And another little girl had seen him. And it scared us to the point we took off piss bolting.
Okay.
I still see his face. I can still see the way he looked. He was in a 70s suit jacket.
Whoa,
And
classy.
and the thing that freaked us out the most was that the tree was not a big tree.
Yeah.
It was not thick. It was thin branches, not enough to sustain weight. And the branches weren't bent. He was just perched somehow
Whoa.
in a tree in a brown jacket. He had the horrible, almost Beetlejuice looking kind of black sunken eyes.
Yeah.
We both saw him. We both ran from him. And I remember falling over and hurting my knee real bad, trying to run away from this thing. I turned back only to see he wasn't there,
Yeah.
feeling like we'd imagined the whole thing and that we were all going crazy. But I saw it. I know what I saw.
It's pretty crazy.
And I can still see it.
Yeah.
And I never would walk around that front part of the school again. But it's always stuck with me. And you do think maybe I imagined it. Maybe I saw something else. Maybe it was a paedophile hiding in a tree. But I was like, but how? I looked at the tree so many times, like very wearily when I had to go that way. I mean, but it was like a peppermint tree, but a young one that had been put in.
Yeah. And
So
they're
it
very thin.
didn't have any kind of girth to hold a man.
Yeah.
And no one believed me.
That's
And yes, maybe I do sound like a crazy girl, but I swear I saw it.
That's fair enough.
And my friend saw it to the point we both looked at each other and screamed and ran.
Yeah.
Like, if she'd not done that,
Then
I go, I'm crazy.
Yeah,
but she
simple.
saw it too. Anyway, on to the next. Ghosts in trees. So, New Orleans. I was exploring New Orleans and I decided to have dinner at this super cute outdoor bar. I kept feeling someone touching my lower back while I was sitting down enjoying my meal. I thought it must have been a kid or something at the table behind us. I eventually had enough and turned around to tell this kid to stop. When I turned, the table was empty. I must have looked freaked out because when the waitress came, she asked if I was all right. I told her what had happened and she said it happened regularly to women who come here to have dinner.
Oh,
It's just a standard thing.
no, one of them.
A regular complaint of a back rubber.
Mm.
Now, how would you feel about that, Jimmy?
Not comfortable.
Imagine,
But there's been a couple like that though, which are just such a common
it's just this
commonplace.
happens.
Yeah, just go with it.
People
What can
complain
you
about
do?
that quite often. They do, and I have heard many stories of particular places that you have this recurring, with no prior knowledge, people reporting the same
Yeah.
kind of thing, like hair stroking.
And it's funny,
Or-
like you're saying too. It's a restaurant or a place where people gather quite often, so you're not going to have the same person. It
Yes.
happens to multiple people, and
Yeah.
they're the ones that are probably the most hardest to explain.
And it makes me think, I mean, if ghosts have consciousness, or if they're even real, but if they have consciousness, it
Yeah.
makes sense to me. You would tend to do things in a busy place because people are so insular and they're only focused on what's happening. Like she said, her automatic reaction without even actually knowing there was a kid there was, oh, there must be a kid behind me knocking into my back.
Absolutely.
So it would make sense that quite often these weird little things may happen more often than we realise.
Yeah.
And we just put it down to it being, oh, well, we're in a busy restaurant, it must be a person behind me,
Yeah.
without even knowing.
Yeah.
It seems to be quite a common thing. And I often think that how often people think like they might see something that shouldn't be there in a busy place. It would make sense. That would be where you would hide in plain sight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've quite often said to people, how do you know you haven't?
That's
Like,
true.
how does anyone know they haven't?
Exactly.
We are so focused on ourselves and our goal. Like, I'm at the shops to get my muesli and my
Exactly.
my apples. that you just don't know. You just don't know. Because no one's, there's no sign in or sign out little checklist. I mean, and I had, this was a human person, but still, like, I had a strange, creepy man following me around the grocery stores.
Yeah.
And like, he was even peering round the aisles and then hiding. And then he'd go round to intercept the next aisle. And he was quite clearly
A human person.
a human person. Very strange person. But this, again, you kind of go, what if he wasn't? What if it wasn't real?
Who knows?
But I know he was. He was just a creeper. Hey, anyone got any grocery store creeper stories?
There's got to be some good ones out there of that.
I have the best one from working in Fremantle Bookshop. I'm going to share it with you as an extra, a little extra for you. I used to work in Fremantle in a bookstore. I won't mention its name, but those of you that know me know what bookstore it was, because no doubt you visited me there. There was a young regular who would come in, and he was harmless to a degree, but he was fixated.
Mm-hmm.
He just decided he would come in, I think it was every Friday, and he had he'd always wear an Eagles cap.
Yeah.
Big Eagles fan. He did have a slight intellectual delay.
Yeah.
And he would always come into the shop and he would hide behind like the history shelf, which was right next to the counter.
Yeah.
And I would just regularly have to stand there and out the corner of my eye see the top of his head and his eyes, and he would just stay there for 20 minutes
What?
staring at me.
Oof. It's a bit...
When I would turn, I'd just see giant eyes staring and the top of a head. And then sometimes he'd shift to the end of the aisle. That was worse because he'd tilt his head slightly
Yeah.
and watch me from the end of the aisle. I knew who he was, and I would just have to ignore it because there was nothing I could do. I'd be very pleasant. Good. Oh, hi, how are you? Then he asked me out,
Uh-huh.
and then he kept coming in. He just wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
So that was very frightening.
That would have been.
But I knew he was harmless, but then you just don't know.
Exactly.
You just
never
don't know. But there is nothing more off-putting, and you have to carry on working. You just have to carry on selling books to people
Yeah.
with, he's watching. A pair of eyes just peering over the top of a bookshelf at you. It is awful.
Gross.
Anyone had any stalker creepy stories from their workplace? I'd love to hear about it. We might even do a whole episode on
You've got some
stalkers.
good ones.
I've got some bloody good ones.
Not to mention the clown. That was already a bad one to start with.
Which one?
The one that you got.
Oh, yeah, the clown.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yes, I'm sure there are plenty of stalker. Being a big personality, I'll admit, obviously I attract weirdos.
Yes, you do.
I'm Jacqueline there. Married one. Married one of my stalkers.
Got it.
Yeah,
Funny.
anyway, write into us. We
Yep.
want to hear your
More
weird stories, coincidences, stalkers, creepy ones, ghost ones, anything.
Do it.
Anything. It's been a blast, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is a weird episode, folks, but this is what you get when it's a busy week, and we're literally just smashing one out for you, little extra one for you. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any feedback about the shows or anything you'd like to hear us talk about, write into us. We are going to be looking at zombies in the upcoming weeks. We have more.
Gross.
I know. We have more cryptid stories, and we've got some good old-fashioned ghost stories coming up. Now, during the month of October, I'm going to be doing some proper old-school spooktastic content regarding creepy stuff around Halloween, Halloween-themed hauntings or horror stories. Get you on your toes in time for the spooky season. So please be sure to tune back. October's going to be a good month for content, so please come back. I know it's been a little bit wibbledy-wobbledy the last few episodes, but I'm going to get back on track come October. Thank you for your continued support, and please be sure to send your stories in to Spooky Town Tales. This is Morgan.
And Jimmy.
Thank you for listening. Stay creepy.
Bye.